So, Elon Musk has launched his thermonuclear lawsuit, but it is a bit of a damp squib. What am I talking about? I actually hear that a lot. You may know that X, Twitter, whatever you call them these days, they have issued a claim against an organisation called Media Matters. And what Media Matters did was, they were showing that certain adverts were appearing next to far-right content on Twitter. And supposedly, as a result, a lot of advertisers pulled, obviously losing Twitter / X lots of money. Musk, though, has issued a lawsuit in Texas on behalf of Twitter. And he's making three claims. He's suing for interference with contract. In other words, we had arrangements with advertisers, but you've done something that has made them pull out of those contracts. He's suing for damage to business reputation. I mean, that's a bit like malicious falsehood, defamation, but effectively saying, you were saying untrue things about my company. As a result, I've incurred losses. And he's also suing for prospective future losses. In other words, now nobody's going to advertise with us and we're going to lose all this projected revenue. However, it's interesting because the particulars of claim, the allegations set out, I'm not totally convinced that they're very persuasive, because what the argument is, oh, these aren't organic, natural results. You have manipulated them in some way. So how did Media Matters do this? Well, they basically set up Twitter accounts and they followed far-right content. So their timeline became full of far-right content, and obviously advertisers, the way the advertising works is it just puts the adverts next to what you want to view. But Musk's argument is that, well, of course people who subscribe to far-right content are going to see the adverts next to far-right content. But for most users, but here's an interesting thing, he said, most users won't get that. You get a lot more far-right content if you actively subscribe, whereas your average user, they've said we'll only get about 7.5% of their timeline being far-right stuff. So it's an interesting one. I mean, he's issued in Texas, and the Texas Attorney General seems to be very much on his side and has put a big thing about how this is, disparaging and, closing down legitimate business, and it's an attack on free speech. But Musk's argument effectively seems to be, well, you can't call me a drug dealer just because I only sell drugs to people who ask for them. So I'm not sure how far this is going to go, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure if Media Matters might try and bring an application saying this is a SLAP, strategic litigation against public participation, and try and get it struck out. Musk's suing on the form, he's ticked this claim is worth more than $75 million box. So obviously he's seeking quite a lot of money. But it'll be very interesting to see. I mean, also he'll have to prove the losses. He'll have to prove that there was a direct, what we call causative effect. But for Media Matters publicising this, the advertisers wouldn't have pulled. Whereas some advertisers have already indicated that they pulled anyway just because of the way Twitter was run and some of Musk's comments online anyway. I mean, he'd probably have to get statements from the companies saying, yes, we pulled because of what Media Matters said. I mean, you can always invite the court to infer that was the result, but causation is always a tricky thing to show. And suing for future losses is something we do quite a lot. We sue for prospective future losses and damages because we say, well, your actions just haven't affected us in the past, they're affecting us in the future. But they're very hard projections to do because obviously a lot of the time, unless you can specifically say, here's a bunch of contracts that have been cancelled and here's what we would have earned from them, a lot of it is very speculative. But there you go, I just thought you might find that, as always, vaguely interesting. If you did, please consider liking, subscribing and sharing. Like I say, I'm not really bothered about that, but again, social media, YouTube actually gets more efficient for you if you have above a certain number of subscribers. So if I can get above 10k subscribers, you can watch this in glorious 4K. So there you go. Actually, this weekend, just to ramble a bit and pad this out, I was doing some advocacy training with all the new young barristers up in Winchester. That was lots of fun. But then I went to London to be in a documentary that I'm not allowed to speak about because it's all very secret. But I did get to hang around beforehand with some genuine, legit film producers, one of whom was very kind enough to sit down and point out in great and excruciating detail everything that's wrong with my videos. But he wasn't nice enough to give me his phone number. He gave me some tips. Apparently I should film further away and zoom in so I don't look quite as fat. So charming. But yeah, so future things, you know, maybe the videos will get better. Although a lot of his suggestions appear to boil down to all you need is a £5 million budget and a film crew. And I'm stood on an old tree stump doing this, just talking to a GoPro. So yeah, there you go. Please consider clicking, liking, subscribing. If I get above the 10,000, maybe the codexes work. And then you can all unsubscribe and unlike. I don't know if they take it away. But we'll keep an eye on this Musk Twitter case. I'm sure Dan will be doing a much more extensive and far more accurate video about this. So keep an eye out for that one.